Hello, Gaurav.
Hello, Pradeep sir. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, shall we
Hello.
start?
Yes, sir. The speaker is joining in minute, sir.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
So the live has started. YouTube live.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Technical. Okay.
Uh, Speaker has joined. Okay. Apurva, you can start.
Yes, sir. Good morning, all. This is Apurva. At the outset, let me welcome Professor Swapnil Desai sir, TPO, and Dr. Pradeep Mane sir for today's webinar on higher studies, that is MS in US, which will be delivered by our alumnus of batch 2015 from EXTC, Ms. Shalaka Satam. Shalaka ma'am, a very hearty welcome to the VPP COE and VS Virtual Campus. To begin with, let me call upon our TPO Professor Swapnil Desai sir to give the formal introduction of the event. Sir, please.
Good morning, everyone. Dear student, welcome. And you have decided to attend this webinar. It means you are serious about and sure about what you want to do after your graduation. India and China are neck in competition about the number of students sent USA for higher education. And every year, more than 1 lakh students go to USA for higher studies. And let me tell you, could be one of them in near future. The prospectus and benefit of studying in USA are quality education and the plums job you can have after your studies. So please welcome Shalaka Satam, our alumna of 2015 batch from Department of EXAC to talk to you everything about study abroad and MS in USA. Shalaka Satam has received her MS degree in electrical and computer engineering from University of Arizona in 2017 and the BE degree in electronics and telecommunication engineering from our college and University of Mumbai in 2015. She is currently pursuing her PhD degree with the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at University of Arizona. Her research interests include cybersecurity, Internet of Things, computer networks, atomic computing, and data analysis. So please welcome Shalaka to have a dialogue with you regarding the foreign education. And by the way, be ready with your question for a question and answering session. Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Over to you, Shalaka.
Hi everyone, can you hear me properly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, so just give me a minute. Okay, can you see my presentation?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about MS in US. So the overview of my presentation is going to be, I'm going to speak a little bit about me, then some basic terminology, which is very common over here. I'm going to talk about the credit system, followed by how to apply to a graduate school. Then I'm going to talk about thesis versus non-thesis masters, and then a little bit about funding opportunities, and then how you should go about once you are in the US and you are going to start with your graduate school. And then I'm going to go ahead with how you should apply for jobs after graduation or during your graduation, like once you're closer to your graduation. So a little bit about me, it's the same what I was introduced with. I completed my bachelor's from PVVPCOE from in electronics and telecommunications. I went ahead with doing my master's in electrical and computer engineering. My master's was a thesis one with a research in Bluetooth intrusion detection systems. And currently, I'm pursuing my PhD in electrical and computer engineering. And my work, my research interest is in cybersecurity, Internet of Things, autonomic computing, computer networks, and data analysis. So some of the basic terminology, which I'm going to I'm just going to introduce you to these terms before going ahead with the presentation, so that there's no doubt when I say these terms again and again. The first one is graduate school. So graduate school is everything where all advanced degrees, even if it's your master's or PhD, it's said to be graduate school. Graduate students are basically students who study in a graduate school. So even if you're a master's student or a PhD student, you'll be called as a graduate school a student. And basically what is like bachelor's in India is called as undergrad over here in the US. Then you have coursework. Coursework is basically classes you will take to graduate from your program. And then you have tuition, which is basically the fees which you pay per semester while you're enrolled in grad school. So I'm going to start with the basic credit system, how courses work, or how a degree is given to you when you are enrolled into a master's program or any graduate program. So usually American universities work on a credit system. So a student has to earn a certain number of credits to graduate. And like, for example, at my university, that is University of Arizona, to get the master's degree, a student has to earn 30 credits of coursework to graduate and earn a master's degree. So basically, how is it? It mostly works like one course gives you 3 credits. So basically, to get 30 credits in my university, you need to take 10 courses. That's like 10 into 3 will give you 30. So you need 10 courses to graduate with a master's program. So what is a credit? So basically, each credit it's something that they term it in, like the equation goes with hours. So what they say is each credit is 15 to 16 hours of teaching with the professor. So let's say most of the courses are of 3 credits. So when you're taking a 3 credit course, it's always going to be a course of 45 to 48 hours of teaching throughout the semester. Now, the semester is usually starting somewhere in August and it ends like mid-August to mid-December. That's the fall semester. And then you have the spring semester, which starts sometime in January and it ends in May. So like this, you have like 2 semesters, and then that's basically like, I think it's around like 20 weeks. So in over that period of time, every course, you're basically spending 45 to 48 hours throughout the semester. So if you divide this into smaller sections, it basically equates to having like 3 hours of teaching per week. So every course you will have like 3 hours, just 3 hours of teaching in that week. And as I earlier said, most graduate level classes or courses are like 3 credit courses. So from the previous example, which I gave of the University of Arizona requires 30 credits for a student to get his master's. Basically, he needs to attend 10 graduate courses because each course is of 3 credits. So it's 30. And then a student pays tuition per credit. So over here, what happens is that the tuition, which every credit has a fixed amount of tuition. And the number of credits you take, the tuition, that amount for one credit basically just gets multiplied, and you pay that much amount as your as the semester fee. So let's say if you take like 2 courses, you end up paying for just for the 6 credits which you are enrolled for. Usually, most of the universities have a 9 credit, like per semester, they have a 9 credit limit. So let's say if I take 12 credits in one particular semester, uh, I won't be charged for the extra 3 credits. Like I'll be only charged for 9 credits. So let's say in one semester, if I decide to take like 12 credits or 15 credits, my tuition will be just limited to those 9 credits. I just pay for 9 credits, and above that, everything is free. But usually, based on the hours, it's divided into 9 credits is more than enough for one semester during the during the grad school days, because your courses are more heavier. You have a lot of workload, and plus you're living alone, so it's a different ball game altogether. So I'm going to reach those topics later on. I'm just introducing you to these topics so that as we go ahead, you these terminologies will be easier for you. So this is how the structure of the program is. So every graduate program in the US has a set of required courses that a student has to take to graduate. So apart from the like, there will be an X number of set courses which you need to take, and then the remaining are things which you take of your own choice. So it's not going to be how how it is during your undergrad in India, or like your bachelor's program in India, where you have a fixed timetable and you just follow that. It's not like that over here. You have this certain required courses which you take, and then there are these remaining courses which are your choice. So basically you are free to take based on your interest, and in your department you can go ahead and take those courses and learn, like whatever you enjoy to learn. And every department or every university has this set of own rules, which they call as the graduate handbook, which is mostly where lists what are the required courses and what are, like those courses which you can just take on your own and go ahead and study those. One simple, like, I'm going to just give you 2 examples at the University of Arizona itself. So U of A stands for University of Arizona over here. So if you see in the electrical and computer engineering program, the master's program at the U of A, a student can take any course to graduate. So basically, we don't have any required courses which we need to take. We can take whichever courses in ECE and we can graduate. Like, let's say if I like networks, I can take all courses based on networks. Or if I like cybersecurity and networks, I can take cybersecurity and networks and graduate. VLSI, whatever I like, I can take and I can graduate. Also, ECE gives us the option at the U of A. This example is just based on U of A. So your EC also gives us a chance to like take 12 credits. That's basically like 4 courses outside the electrical and computer engineering department, but those courses need to be in the College of Engineering. So these are the rules for electrical and computer engineering at the U of A. But if you go to see the master's program in computer science at the U of A, their rules are different from electrical and computer engineering. Their rules basically say that they have 4 courses which they have to take. Like, those are the compulsory courses which they have to take. No, like whatever your interests are, those 4 courses you end up taking, whatever happens. And then the remaining courses, like 30 minus 12 credits, the remaining those credits you can take whichever courses you want from the CS department. So as you can see from these 2 examples, that the EC handbook is totally different from the computer science handbook. So basically, whichever program you apply to, the structure of the program is different. All programs within the university will have a different requirements for you to graduate. So whenever you go to a grad school, just make sure that you know what your grad handbook states, so that you can make the best out of it and take the courses which you love, rather than taking something that's like compulsory, or just because someone else is taking. uh, so another important note is that when you go for graduate school, since like it's your responsibility in the graduate school to make sure that you're enrolled for it's your responsibility that you're making you're ticking off all those points out of the graduate handbook, so that it's make you're ready to graduate. It's your responsibility to make sure that you are enrolled in the proper number of credits or proper number of courses which are required so that you graduate. And most schools have graduate advisors, and they also have academic advisors which will help you select your coursework. So yeah, you can always ask for help from these people. They are there to help you. You can just go ahead, email them, ask them your doubts, and they will help you. And they'll help you select courses if you have a doubt regarding them. So how to go about applying to graduate schools in the US? Uh, just like I want to tell you that applying to an American college, the acceptance process, like the admission and the acceptance process, is not similar to how Indian college admissions and acceptance processes work. So you need to make sure, like when you apply to American colleges, you need to make sure that you are following the way people apply over here, and you shouldn't follow the methods which you did when you applied for the Indian grad school which you're currently in, because you will probably end up like you are always, you can always get better, but then at times if you use the same methodology, you might probably settle for less. So these are few exams which are required for the application when it comes to US. The first one is TOEFL. It tests your English. Basically, the exam is based on speaking, written, and reading. Then you have GRE. It is a standardized test that is, most of the schools in the US do ask for your GRE and TOEFL scores. And GRE tests you on analytical writing, quantitative reasoning, and verbal reasoning. Uh, the GRE and TOEFL preparation time, I would say usually people do take around 6 months to 1 year. There are classes in India for GRE and TOEFL preparation. When I applied to a grad school, I never went for any course classes for GRE and TOEFL preparation. I studied on my own. You get the Kaplan book. It's a purple color, big, fat book, and I think it comes with a CD and a list of words. And I think that book it's good enough for you to study. So if you want to, if you're planning to give your GRE, I would suggest just buy the Kaplan book 1 year prior, start studying from it, and I think like around 6 months of studies is good enough to get a very good score in GRE and TOEFL. Also, various tests are available online which you can give, like practice tests are there online which you can give, see your scores, and trust me, whatever you get during your practice score, the score which you get during the practice test is what you're going to get, like somewhere plus or 10, like plus 10 minus 10, you will get around your main exam. So if you're scoring well in your test exam, you will score well in your GRE. So I would suggest 6 months is good enough. You can also study for a year, and I'm sure it will be good enough. Just check out online. There are many websites online which give you GRE and TOEFL books and everything, notes. So it's your choice if you want to join classes or not. Also, just like getting a GRE score is a good thing. Like a good GRE score is a good thing, but also it's not the only factor which matters the most in your grad school application. It's I would say it's like a 50% score which matters in your grad school, because there are more things which add up to it. Uh, the most important thing, according to me, with your, like, I would say more, I feel this is more important than your GRE score, is your statement of purpose, or else the SOP. So, firstly, this is like, it's an essay which talks about you and your goals and your ambition. It basically just make sure when you write your SOP, since it's supposed to be your goals and your ambitions, make sure that you write it on your own. I know there are places in India where they write it for you and they give it to you. But remember, it's since it's your goal, it's something that has to be written by you. And frankly speaking, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to statement of purpose. It's pure, like, whatever you plan to do, you can just mention like why you want to do your masters, or what are you interested in, your goals, or what is your plan after doing your masters. All these things you can always add into your statement of purpose, and I think it's good enough. Uh, I would highly recommend you, whoever is planning to apply, to take advice from people. Also, like, take advice with, like, let's say sentence correction or grammar, but, or take help for proofreading your SOP. But when it comes to writing your SOP, write it on your own. Don't take other people's help to do that. Don't copy it from anywhere. Do it on your own, because usually universities also check if your SOP is plagiarized or not. So just make sure that it's something that you have written on your own, in your own words. As I said earlier, do not plagiarize. That is basically copy. I know, like, we are in Mumbai University. We end up writing, like, copying things from journals and various other places when it comes to writing reports or things like that. But when it comes to your SOP, don't. Most universities, mostly, I would say like 98% of the universities have a plagiarism checker which is running on their website. They don't have to do much. They just run the code, it gets scanned, and it literally shows you, like, an image like this, and then it gives you the originality report. It literally tells you how much percentage of your uh of whatever document you have submitted, how much of, like, the percentage of it was copied from somewhere. So make sure the SOP which you write, or the letter of recommendations which you have, are not copied from anywhere. They are something that that's written by you yourself. Oh, did I miss us? Okay. So the other thing is, when you apply to schools, make sure that you do a good amount of research when you apply to schools, because it's not cheap to apply to a grad school. It's going to be expensive, because uh, every time, like, every school you apply to, you have to send your TOEFL and GRE scores. Now, sending your TOEFL and GRE score to a particular school, I think it takes around $25 every time to each university. And then you have to also make sure, like, you have to, there's a certain amount of application fee which depends based on, from school to school. You have to apply those, you have to pay those as well. And also the tuition, like, it matters how much the tuition is of the school. You just can't go ahead and apply to a particular school, not without, just because it's famous, without seeing whether your aims and goals align with that school, or what that school is teaching, or without seeing the comparison between your GRE scores. and as well as your performance during your undergrad, and a certain budget which you have to pay the tuition. So you need to make sure that all these things align before you apply to a school. Um, Also make sure that you have an idea of how much the tuition is going to be for your school, because it's not like one semester you're paying for. It's like you need to be sure that you can pay that much tuition for the 4 semesters. That's 2 years. Make sure that you can do that. Also make sure that you can, the city in which you're going, what are the living expenses over there, how much is it going to have, like, cost you to live in a, like, an apartment, or how much is going to, the other things like groceries, how much is all that thing going to cost you. So make sure that when you consider the tuition, add up all these other factors also which are not shown, and make sure that that's good enough for you. Also, most of the schools, every application you send will be around roughly about $100 per school, because you have to pay application fees, you have to pay the postage fees, you have a TOEFL score sending fee, and you also have a GRE score sending fee. So make sure that you consider all these things before applying to a school. Basic admission timeline for the universities in the US. Usually, all grad schools work have 2 semesters. One is the fall semester, and the other one is the spring semester. Now, the fall semester starts in mid-August and it goes on till mid-December, and the spring semester starts in mid-January and it ends sometime in mid-May. Usually enrollment, like, you can take admissions during both the semesters, but most of the times, majority of the students that come are usually during the fall semester. That's during in August. Very few students join the university. Like, the enrollment is comparatively way lesser in the spring semester than the fall semester. So let's say if you want to apply for the fall semester, that's like from August to December. So to apply in that, make sure that you submit your application before the end of December the previous year. So basically, let's say if you want to apply for August 2021, so this year. So let's say if you wanted to come to the US in August 2021, you should have submitted your applications before December 2020, sorry. And so that you get acceptance in the following March. That's like March 2021, you'll get your acceptance. By March, April, you get acceptances, whether you're going to, like, which university has accepted you, which has rejected you. Then you also need to have the visa interview at the US Embassy. And you can schedule that once you get your acceptance. The university will issue you an I-20, and based on your I-20, you need to schedule your visa interview, which will happen sometime around June or July. And then since you're starting school in August 2021, you need to fly out by the end of July or early August to attend school. And similarly for the spring semester, let's say the spring semester starts from Jan to May. So you need to submit your application before the end of May, the previous year, so that you get the acceptance around September or October the following year. And then once your university issues your I-20, you go ahead with your visa, scheduling your visa interview around October and November, and then you can fly out from India at the end of December or early January. This is a thesis or non-thesis masters. So usually when you apply for a master's, you get this option whether it should be non-thesis masters or thesis masters. Now, basically, thesis means research. So in non-thesis, it's like you take those 10 courses, which I told you previously. You just take those 10 courses, and at the end of that, you graduate. You don't have to worry about research. You don't have to worry about anything. You just graduate. Now, the thesis version is where the research comes in. So, for so in thesis, how it happens is that you take a certain number of courses, and then the remaining, like there's a certain set of credits which are appointed for the research you do. So you have to get those credits, the research credits. You need to do research. You need to publish papers, like papers as in conference papers or else journal papers. You need to submit those, and you need to publish them. And also at the end of it, you need to write a thesis, which is like it's like a report basically, or a book, where you write down all the research, like the things you learned, the experiments which you did, and all those things, the research which you did, and then you submit it to a committee. And you also have to defend your thesis. So basically, defending your thesis is like doing a presentation of your research work in front of a committee, usually of 3 or 4 professors, where you tell them the research which you have done. They ask you questions regarding it, and at the end of it, you pass. And then once you pass, you get your master's. So that's the thesis master's. Firstly, doing research, it's a full-time commitment. Mostly people take it as a funding opportunity, like doing research means we'll get money. It's not just about the funding, and it also does not promise you that you'll get funding. Research is more like you have your courses, you study for those, and then you have other time where you work in a lab environment on new projects and everything under a professor, and you do research, you learn new things, you read research papers, and you get your thesis out of it. So it's a full-time commitment, and it's not a mere source of funding. So if you ask me whether you should do a thesis or you should go for a non-thesis, I would strongly suggest it. It completely depends on you. It depends on what your choices are. If you love research, if you like to learn, like, if you're ready, you're more hands-on, you can go ahead and do thesis. uh, just to be there, like, even if you do a thesis, it does not improve your chances to get jobs after you graduate. So it doesn't matter. Doing a thesis is purely based on your personal goal to do research. So let's say if you plan to do a PhD after your master's, I would highly recommend you to do a thesis, because a PhD is all about, research. So if how usually labs, and it gives you that opportunity to check if you actually like doing it or not. So I would strongly suggest, if go for the thesis if you plan to do a PhD. And if you don't want to do a PhD, and if you don't like research, go ahead and do the thesis, non-thesis version. If you want to do a PhD, go ahead and do the thesis, because if you're planning to do a PhD, doing a thesis master's, it kind of paves your path to doing the PhD. Like, there are times when you can convert your thesis work to your PhD as well. So it's like an addition, like an add-on thing. So it's a personal choice, but just remember that, even if you do a thesis or you don't do a thesis, your chances of getting a job after you graduate is the same. It doesn't, like, thesis doesn't give you some extra points to get a better job or anything like that. It doesn't. It's just the same at the end of the like, once you graduate. A non-thesis master's is basically you choose based on the courses which the university is given wherever you apply. Just make sure, and if you're planned to apply for a non-thesis masters, choose your school based on your budget, and then I strongly recommend sending an email to your graduate advisor before you apply to any school, so that you get to know which courses they have, and who teaches it, or what is the syllabus which is covered during the semester. It will give you an idea of what the university is giving at the end of it. And just remember that most of these graduate schools, they do post deadlines online, like, you need to submit your application by 15th of December, or else we won't accept it. But generally most deadlines in these universities are flexible. So if you talk to a graduate advisor, they can help you with the deadline, uh, and make sure, like, if you're facing any financial problems, they can be flexible with your deadline and give you some time to submit the documents which are required. So always ask for help when it's needed. And I feel most of these graduate advisors, as well as academic advisors in all the universities, try to do their best to help you out. Funding opportunities if you're doing a non-thesis. So one of the major funding opportunity is getting a teaching assistantship. So to get a TA, talk to your graduate advisor regarding the TA. You can do that before applying to the school, or else after you get an acceptance, you can ask them that, are there any TA positions which I could get? Now, basically, TAs are paid on 0.25 or zero point 0.5 FTE. So FTE stands for full-time employment. So full-time employment is basically like one FTE is 40 hours. So let's say if you get 0.25 FTE, that means you're going to get a TA for 10 hours. And zero point 0.5 means 20 hours. So as an international student, we can only work on campus part-time for 20 hours max per week. So let's say if you get the 0.25 FTE, that's like you're getting paid for 10 hours. So you still have 10 hours to do another job on campus. If you get 0.5 FTE, it's really good. You're getting paid for 20 hours. That means you're like employed to the max you can work, and which is very good. Usually the teaching assistants, uh, the tuition is partially or completely covered by the university. So if you get a TA-ship, you don't have to pay the fees of that semester. So, and also TAs get a bi-weekly paycheck, or you can also call it as stipend, depending on the number of hours that you're working. Then there's something called a scholarship. Some colleges do offer scholarships to their students. Most of these scholarships give a partial reduction in tuition. To get a scholarship, many students do get it during, when they apply to the university. They get a letter, like when they get their acceptance itself, they get their scholarship. Also, you can always ask your grad advisor if there are opportunities to get a scholarship, and if you get it, it's a very good thing. Then there are jobs called as grader jobs, where most of the courses have graders that grade the homeworks and assignments for the professors. So this job is paid for hours of work done. It depends from university to university. In our university, it's based on the number of students in your course. So let's say if I'm grading a course with a certain number of students, I get an equivalent pay for the number of homeworks I'm grading for that number of students. And then there are other campus jobs which you can take, like, for example, campus jobs like IT support. There are there are like many desk jobs, libraries have jobs, the rec centers usually have jobs. There are also jobs in the cafeteria where you get a cooking job. All like there are various amounts of jobs on campus, which will surely, like, they won't pay your tuition, but then they'll surely pay for your monthly expenses, so you don't have to depend on anyone for those expenses. You can earn your own money at least for the monthly expenses. That's your rent, electricity, water, and food, so you can pay for that at least. So just a reminder that the TA positions are the only positions which usually get the tuition, like, partially or completely paid. Scholarship depends, and the amount of scholarship you get, that much part, there's a reduction in your tuition. But grader and the other on-campus jobs, that your tuition is not going to be covered, so you need to pay your tuition, and then you just earn a monthly pay. Also, the last point is a really important point. So make sure that since you are an international student, you can only work part time for 20 hours on campus. Any work done outside the campus uh, is illegal. And if you are caught doing illegal jobs on campus or outside the campus, you will be deported from the United States. So just remember, this is one of the most important points. Uh, for a thesis master's, when you apply, like if you have decided to do a thesis master's, make sure that the school which you are choosing, you are sure about the area of research you are interested in, and also make sure that your budget and your academic scores line up to it. uh, Firstly, I would say start with focusing on the area of research you would like to work on, and then based on your research interest, identify the schools that have that research in the departments which they have. Uh, Also, identify the research labs and the professors in that school who work in that particular area, and then send them emails and show them interest in their work. To show interest, you can always, you can always go on Google Scholar, search the professor's name, read few of his papers, like journal papers or conference papers which he has published. Read about them, see what the work he's doing or the students in his lab are doing, and then you can email him if that aligns with what your research interests are. Uh, Also, in the email, make sure when you email them that you are interested in working with them, and do this research of the professors and everything before you apply, before you do the whole application process, so that it improves your chances of funding as well as getting admission into that school. uh, let's say if a professor, like you email a professor and he gives you a negative response, like he doesn't have a project for you or his lab is full right now, it's okay. You can always move on. There are other schools, other professors, so you don't have to waste time on one person. You can always move on to other universities and other professors. There are plenty of options. There are many people who do similar research on various different topics, so you can always reach out to them. Let's say if you uh, email a professor and you get a positive response, that's actually very good for you. So now when you write your statement of purpose and where you write your goals and academic interests, you can always mention that professor's name in your SOP, stating that you spoke with him and you are interested in his research area and he has accepted you to be your academic advisor. Uh, and then this, like doing that, increases your chances of getting admitted into that particular university. A few points when you email professors. This is what I've learned over the past also, my elder brother is a research assistant professor in the US. So these are just some points which I have come across. So I would like to share them. Whenever you email professors, remember to keep the emails short and to the point. Uh, don't send long emails with flowery language. Just ask whatever you have to ask. You don't have to use any long sentences, some stories. Don't beat around the bush, just be to the point. Also, there are please don't describe your life problems to the professor. Trust me, they don't have time to go over those things. So just keep the subject to the point and be simple about it. Explain it. That's it. Whatever you need, just ask for that. Um, Also, remember that most professors get uh, hundreds of emails a day, and they are usually like really busy because most of these professors, they teach courses, they have their own research, as well as most of them have their own startup companies which they are working on. So these guys are really busy, so they don't have time to read a long email from you. So make sure that your email is short. But let's say they might, like, once you email them, you might not get a quick response from them. So it's he if he has forgotten to respond to you, just send them a gentle reminder after a few days. If he doesn't respond to you after that gentle reminder, it's okay. Go to another, check for another professor, email him, and move on. Don't email the same professor 30 times. Trust me, if he didn't email you back the second time you sent him a reminder, most probably he's not going to respond back. Uh, Also, make sure that whenever you're applying to a particular professor in a particular university, uh, you do some background research on his current research interests correctly. Like, as I told you previously, go through their websites. Also, read some of their papers which they have published. And usually, you can find these papers on Google Scholar. So you can read few of them and then email. So this way it basically shows, like, you're showing him that you're interested in his work and you're really interested in joining his lab and doing research under him. uh, Also, we have come across this, that there are mails where people try to fake knowledge, so don't do that. Professors can usually spot this. So just remember these points when you email a professor. These are the various thesis funding opportunities. So, as a thesis, like when it comes to thesis masters or a PhD, usually you will get a research assistantship. So now teaching assistantship is usually where you teach a particular class or course, or you teach the lab sessions of that course. A research assistant is basically getting paid for the job he does in the lab, like a particular research or whatever the project he's working on. Your advisor gives you a stipend for the work you're doing. So when it comes to thesis masters, getting a research assistant is the best you can get. And usually these professors have research fundings, which they get through various grants, the government, and various companies. So for doing research in particular areas, and if you work on a project which is related or funded by any of these projects which your professor has, your advisor will give you fund, like, a research assistantship, where basically he pays you like a stipend, and he also covers your tuition completely or partially. Now this basically, the amount of money he gives you, like 0.25 or zero point 0.5 FTE, that completely depends on the professor and the amount of money he has in his research funding. Um, Also, the RA ship he will cover your tuition partially or completely, and then you will get the stipend. The other opportunity for funding is through a teaching assistantship for a thesis masters, where these all these professors are also teaching courses. So you can ask him to recommend you as a TA for his own course. So basically you work for him as a teaching assistant, and your tuition gets paid as well as you get a stipend. And then you have the general uh, funding opportunities like you had in the non-thesis version, where you have scholarship. But usually scholarships are more for the non-thesis people. Most of the, like, let's say if you're doing thesis, you might not get a scholarship, because it's like either a scholarship or an RA. You can't get both of it. So let's say if you get an RA, I don't think you'll get a scholarship. Also, you can always be a grader. You can in fact ask your own professor for you, like you can ask him to make you his grader, because in the non-thesis version, most of these people have to ask other professors in the university for grader positions. In this case, since you already have your own professor, you can also always ask him for the grader position. And then you always have the on-campus jobs which pay. And again, the same note, don't work out off campus. It's illegal. You'll be sent back to your own country. Funding as an overall, I would say it's easier to get funding as a thesis master student. It's sort of hard when you're a non-thesis master student. Also remember, the recommendations from the professors have a lot of weight. But thesis masters, like doing research and the coursework, is difficult than the non-thesis one. So if you are choosing thesis masters, remember that you're definitely going to work way more than what a student is doing with a non-thesis. And again, a reminder that research is a full-time commitment, and don't take it as a means to get funding. So some points for you to follow once you are in grad school. So since you are in a new country with, everything is new, just remember time. Time is the most important thing you have. So make sure that you manage it properly and you prioritize the tasks which you have at hand. Masters, you generally takes around 2 years, but it also depends on schools. So few schools allow you to graduate, like they are fine with you graduating in 1.5 years. So there are many students who graduate in 1.5 years. But generally 2 years is good. Few students who do thesis, they do take like 2.5 years to graduate, and that's fine as well. Also, most students usually taking a non-thesis masters, they take around 3 courses per semester, like let's say 9 to 12 credits. That's like 3 to 4 courses per semester. And let's say if you're doing the thesis version, I would highly recommend you to take like only 2 courses per semester, and then focus on your research, because that carries more weightage. And once you defend your thesis, you get like 6 credits. So just remember that thesis students also take lesser number of courses, because they get extra credits from the research work which they've done. Classes which you do, just remember that classes in US, the coursework in the US is completely different from the coursework which you did in India. Most of the courses have homeworks per week, labs which are different, like per week. You have quizzes most of the courses have quizzes every other week, and then you have midterms as well as finals. And all these things contribute to your final grades. So there is a particular percentage which they give to each of these things. Like let's say homework has 20% of your final grade, labs have 20%, quizzes have 20. midterms have 20, finals have 20. So you have to be consistent in all these things, because in the end, all these 20 are going to add up to become 100. So remember that you can't just be like, oh, I'm not going to study for the quizzes and I might just gain like 20 in all. Even if you get 20 in the other four, you're going to end up at 80%, and that's a B in the course. So that's not an A. So just remember that you have to be consistent in all these four or five, whatever the contribution is. It depends. It varies for every course. So just make sure that you have an idea of what you're signing up for when you enroll for a course. Also, remember in the US, there's no Tech Max. So you have to pay attention in courses. You can't, there's no one who's going to help you, with the quizzes or the midterms or the finals. Like, there's no particular answer which you can just by heart and write it. You have to study consistently over the whole semester. Uh, Also remember, like, a good thing about the courses in the US is that all courses are always recorded. Like, most of the courses in engineering colleges get recorded all the time. So even if you hear them during the course class when it's happening live, you can always refer to the recorded course online, and you can, it helps you finish your homeworks and all those other things, like study for your midterms and finals. The other major thing is, do not copy from other students or online, uh, especially your homeworks and labs. I know it's very common to do that during your undergrad, but do not do this over here. Most of the graders uh, do have a plagiarism checker, which checks for plagiarism, how much you have copied. They get to know about it. And also, most of the graders are good enough in grading, because they've done it previously. Most of them have an idea of when you have copied and from where you have copied. So I would strongly suggest, do not do that. uh, when, like, let's say if you're caught, and if the professor gets to know about it, high chances you're going to get expelled from the school and you're going to get sent back. So make sure that you do not copy homeworks or labs. Also, sometimes there are take home exams too. Just make sure you don't copy that as well. Just write your own answers, study yourself, and write the answers in your own words. That's the most important thing. And also, there is something called a student code of conduct and the graduate handbook. The student code of conduct basically states that copying, plagiarism, and all that is not right. So make sure that you are aware of your university's student code of conduct and the graduate handbook, and make sure you always follow it. Finding job once you graduate, or during, once you come closer to your final semester. So when, like, most students have this question, like, let's say if I apply to a particular university, will I get a job? uh it doesn't depend. Like, the university which you go to doesn't, it doesn't depend on whether other people have got a job or not. In the US, there is nothing called as placements which happen in the university. All companies, like, right from Google, like the big companies to small startup companies, they have their own websites, they have their own job, like, they list all the job openings which they have. You have to go online, apply over there. Their recruiters will email you and set up an interview with you, and that's how the interview process happens. So don't worry about the placements when you apply to a school. It's not like the Indian schools where, the placement companies come on campus and then they give you a job. You will have job fairs where various companies visit campus and they introduce you to the company or the types of jobs they are looking for. But that's not like a campus placement, like, for example, TCS has in has in PVPP. It doesn't work like that. You have to apply online. The recruiter then contacts you if your resume is good enough, or like it's good for the job type they are looking for. They'll contact you. You will have an interview process with them, and then you'll get the job. So also remember that it's your job to apply and find jobs after, like, before or after you graduate. It's all on you. So you can, even for applying internships, it's on you that you go on these companies websites, search for internships and apply for them, or you search for a job and you apply for them and go ahead with the interview process. So it's all on you. Some final thoughts before, before to take care during graduate school is that just remember that you need to live a balanced life. So since you're away from home, there are going to be a lot of things which are going to be new to, like, for example, cooking food, because your mom is not going to end up cooking for you anymore. You have to clean your own apartment. You have to do your own laundry. You have to pay your own bills. So just remember that you find time to do all these things every day. At least cooking is every day. So make sure that you find time to do that. Also, since you're away from home, and make sure, like, not since you're away from home, but it's just that getting exercise is good. So just make sure that you try and get some kind of exercise every day. Since you're in a foreign country, try and exercise, improve your health. Also get a hobby. Like, there will be times when you will have a certain amount of free time, so make sure you get a hobby. You learn new things, like, let's say, playing a guitar, something that you don't know, you can go ahead. Personally, for me, like, one of the hobbies which, like, something that I learned completely new in the US is archery. Like, I go to the archery range and I just practice. So you can get some new hobbies. Like, sometimes in my free time I like to paint. So you can get a new hobby and you can work on those. Whatever it is, you can learn new things always. Um, Also, grad school is hard, but that doesn't mean it's only about studies. Make sure that since you're coming to a new country, you get time to talk with new people around you. There are so many people from various different cultures which are coming to study the same thing as you are. So make sure you get time to talk with them, share your background and learn more about their background. Meet new people. It's always a great opportunity to do that. So just make sure grad school is just not about studies. It's about a lot more things. It's an overall experience which you're earning. And the coursework and everything is going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's always going to be hard. But just make sure that at the end of it, you enjoy doing what you're doing. And that's it from me. Uh, Let me know if you have any questions.
If anyone has any questions, they may ask.
No questions? Okay, there's one question. Just give me a minute. I'm just opening the chat. What was your experience to be in the US? Like, what do you mean by what was my experience to be in the US? Like, how you manage? Okay, so I live in Tucson, Arizona. That's where my university is. Uh, how you manage? Like, manage in terms of
Means you are staying in the hostel or
studies. Oh, so usually people live in apartments which are like, close to campus. So you rent an apartment with fellow friends and everything, and you live with them. In the beginning, they won't be your friends, but eventually they become your friends. So you live with them. Studies, it's like you can, I don't know. Studying has never been a problem for me. Um yeah, it's just that you manage your time properly between the work you have to do at home, like let's say cooking and all. You have that, but then you also have this basic schedule which you have planned out for yourself, where you're studying during the day. And in the US, to be frank, like once you have and like once you join a lab, like for example, have I am part of a lab because I'm a PhD student, and then you have access to these labs the whole day. So it doesn't matter, you can always sit at home and work, like or else you can even come to your lab and work. So see, for example, right now I am in my lab, and it's like it's 10:45 in the night. So most of these buildings, they do have access. You get access, you can come and study whenever you feel you want to. uh yeah, I hope I answered your question, Gaurav. Janvi, what was the total expenses in INR? So I can't. So in my case, I can't give you a total expense as such. Like for me personally, I just had to pay my first semester. Like when I came for my master's in 2015, I think that was the only semester I paid my tuition. The remaining tuition I've always got funded through TA, teaching assistantship, or else right now I'm a research assistant. I've also done jobs on campus, so that has helped me. The total expenses is a completely, like, it depends on your university and the city you live in. Like let's say if you go to school somewhere in California, like somewhere in the Bay Area. Now the thing with Bay Area is that it's really expensive, so it's going to be, the tuition and living is going to be expensive. For someone like me, I live in Tucson, Arizona. My tuitions are getting paid, so I get a salary. But plus, Tucson, Arizona is a small city. It's more university related city. So renting an apartment over here is way more cheaper than somewhere in California. So all these factors matter to the total expenses. So I feel that's a very, it just depends on which city or which state you go to. Uh, Shravani has asked, what according to you is a good GRE score? Uh, a good GRE score, I would suggest anywhere above 300 is a pretty good GRE score. Which universities would you suggest? There are many top universities for computer science. I would strongly suggest you to Google this, because there's actually a list which states all the top universities for MS in CS. But it also depends on your budget and all that, as I said previously. Uh, I've heard that the U of A's computer science department is really good. So it depends. I would, when it comes like top universities, I would strongly suggest you to also research which courses that university is providing. Like if you're interested in those courses as well. So just make sure it's just not the top universities, but also the courses which they provide. So make sure that you are getting a balance between those two. Sairaj has asked, is it better to have work experience here than go for foreign studies? What is suggested? Well, this is it totally. I think it's the same. Like whatever work experience you'll gain in India and you'll come, it will always add up to your resume. It's not going to go wasted. So. There's nothing like particular right or wrong in this. Like let's say if, for example, if one person works in India and then comes to the US And then there's another person who is working, who has just studied and come like to the US, who has not worked in India, and he graduates in 2 years doing his masters and then works in the US. uh, I think it's just going to be the same. It's just that the person who directly came to the US will have industry experience in the US, and the other person will have industry experience in India. But I think the experience, it doesn't matter. Frankly speaking, it matters on what, if if you can solve, if you can crack the interview, that's it, and you'll get the job. That's how it is. So it doesn't work. Frankly speaking, I don't have work experience. I did my master's. Like, if you see I finished my bachelor's in 2015. I came here 2017, and I'm still doing my PhD. So I've never worked in a company. I've always been studying till now. So it just depends on your personal choices, nothing else. Any
There are
more
few
questions?
questions from the YouTube.
Oh, okay. How can I see
Okay.
those?
So, no, I'm asking, ma'am. So, do
Oh,
students
okay.
get opportunities when they finish MS and come to India for jobs?
Yeah, you are always going to get jobs in India as well. Like, I know few students who came with me to the US, and then they decided to go back to India once they had completed their masters, and they have got good jobs in India as well. So yeah, it's not going to create any problems for you. You will get a good job.
And the second question, ma'am, what CGPA helps apply for a TA jobs?
Sorry, what? GPA?
CGPA. What CGPA helps apply for a TA jobs?
Your CGPA doesn't matter when it comes to your TA job. It's completely based on whether you have idea or knowledge of that, the topic which that course is teaching. Your percentage, basically, whatever your undergrad score, only matters till you get accepted into a university. After that, it doesn't matter. For example, like your 10th, how much ever you scored in your 10th, no one asks you after your 12th. It's similar to that. Once you get accepted into a master's program, so it's always, in the long run, it's always going to remain on your resume, and it's always going to add up to your resume. So yeah.
Okay, students, you have any doubt?
Was the biggest difference in studies of India and US? It's completely different. Like, most of the courses, they have like projects which you have to do little bit research on. Like, they have group projects in every course where you have to you have to work with different people and come up with a topic, an idea where you're trying to do something new, and you have to work on that for every course. Then you have all homeworks. And the thing is, these homeworks are not going to be like, the tech max questions which you get like every year. Those questions get repeated. It's not going to be like that. It's always going to be new questions. And also, these questions, you don't have to by heart answers from a particular textbook. You The answers are wide out there. You have to make sure that you are giving examples and all those things. So the learning experience is totally different over here. Also, studies, as in, like, you guys have this fixed curriculum which you follow. Over here, you don't have that. You can take courses which you like which you are genuinely interested in, and you can just study those. So that's the major difference.
Any
Any
more
more questions?
questions? Okay, thank you so much, Shalaka ma'am, for your talk. Now let me invite Dr. Pradeep Mane sir to propose the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Students, please fill the feedback form that I have shared in the chat box. Okay, so that will help us to arrange the more sessions for you. Okay. Now, dear Shalaka, so and all the students, attendees, and the staffs, I would like to take this opportunity to say vote of thanks to our pass out student of 2015 batch from the EXTC department, Shalaka. Thank you for your talk. So this will help the students to uh, be prepared for the higher studies. Those who are interested to go for the higher studies. So this talk will definitely help them. So the webinar was really good and very interactive. So after the sessions, you have cleared their many doubts. So I'm sure this will benefited to the students for their higher studies. So students, please take a note that we are arranging such webinars from the where different our alumni. So please take the benefits from this and improve your technical aspects. Thank you, Shalaka. So we will meet in the next week with the new topic. Thank you, Shalaka.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Okay. So from the USA, after the we have the 12 hours difference. So right now there is a night time. So you have arranged this without taking any hello.
Hello. Yeah, it's not a
Okay.
problem. Yeah, glad to help you guys. Yeah, it was
Okay.
nice
Okay.
talking
Thank
with
you.
you all.
Thank you. Thank
Have
you
a
so
good day.
much.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.